Eleanor, a woman trapped in a passionless marriage, finds herself drawn to her stepson, Daniel. Their connection is undeniable, a forbidden dance of desire that threatens to shatter the fragile peace of their family. My name is Eleanor, and at 44, I find myself caught in a web of longing I never thought possible. My husband, Charles, is a man consumed by his work, his life revolving around spreadsheets, phone calls, and the relentless pursuit of success. His drive and ambition once captivated me, but now, it feels like a wall that separates us. The man who once made me feel cherished now seems more like a distant figure in the background of my life. The days blur into one another, filled with monotonous routines and unspoken frustrations. I find myself yearning for something more, an emotional connection, a touch that sparks warmth, a word that makes my heart race. But those things feel like relics of a past life, buried beneath the weight of our stagnant marriage. The nights are the hardest. As the house falls silent, I often hear the heavy thud of Charles's footsteps fading into his study, where he will spend hours working late into the night. The darkness of our bedroom feels suffocating, a stark reminder of the loneliness I've grown accustomed to. I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts spiraling into places I don't dare to admit out loud. My thoughts drift, often to Daniel, my 24-year-old stepson. He returned home recently after completing his graduate studies, his presence bringing an unexpected vitality to the house. Daniel has always been kind and respectful, but there's something different about him now. He's matured into a man who exudes quiet confidence, his every movement deliberate and captivating. I catch myself watching him, studying the curve of his smile, the way his eyes light up when he talks about his dreams. My heart beats faster when our eyes meet, and I find myself drawn to him in ways I can't explain, ways I know I shouldn't feel. I tell myself it's wrong, that these thoughts are fleeting and meaningless, but the more I try to push them away, the stronger they grow, creeping into my mind at the most unexpected moments. The chemistry between us is undeniable, a magnetic pull that seems to defy logic or reason. One afternoon, after another long day of waiting for Charles to return from work, I decided to take a moment for myself. The soft glow of the afternoon sun filtered through the curtains, casting golden light across the room. I stood before the mirror, about to slip into a silk robe, when my own reflection caught my eye. My fingers lingered on the smooth fabric, and I sighed, the weight of my loneliness pressing heavily on me. I missed the woman I used to be, the one who felt confident, desirable, alive. These days, I barely recognized myself, my heart aching for a spark to reignite the fire that once burned within me. Seeking solace, I unclasped my bra and reached for the robe hanging on the bedpost. The soft creak of the bedroom door startled me. I turned, clutching the robe to my chest, and saw Daniel standing in the doorway. "Hey, Eleanor," he said, his voice casual but warm, a smile spreading across his face. My heart jumped in my chest, my breath catching. I quickly pulled the robe around me, my fingers fumbling with the fabric, but it was too late. His eyes widened slightly, his gaze lingering just a moment too long before he looked away. "I'm sorry," he stammered, his cheeks flushed with a hint of pink. I didn't mean to interrupt. "It's fine," I managed to reply, though my voice was shaky. I was just changing. The air between us was thick with an unspoken tension, the kind that can't be ignored once acknowledged. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, his weight moving from one foot to the other, his eyes flickering back toward me as if he was caught in some internal struggle. I should probably go," he muttered, taking a hesitant step back toward the door. "Wait," I called out before I could stop myself, my voice barely above a whisper. "You don't have to leave. We can talk." Daniel paused, his hand still resting on the doorframe. He turned back to me, his gaze searching mine. The desire simmering beneath the surface was unmistakable, palpable in the charged air between us. My pulse quickened as I realized the magnitude of what I had just invited. "I've been feeling a little lonely lately," I admitted, my voice soft, my words hesitant. "Charles is always busy, and it's been hard, feeling so disconnected." He nodded slowly, his expression unreadable, though his eyes softened. "I get it," he said, his tone low and measured. "It's weird with him being gone so much." A spark of boldness flickered within me, pushing me to take a step closer to him. "Maybe we could spend more time together," I suggested, my words trembling with unspoken meaning. "Just the two of us." To my surprise, Daniel's lips curved into a small smile, his posture relaxing slightly. "I'd like that," he replied, his voice tinged with something I couldn't quite name. The space between us felt electric, the air charged with possibilities I dared not acknowledge. My heart raced as I stepped closer, until we were just inches apart. His presence was magnetic, and I could feel the warmth radiating from his body, the tension between us building with every passing second. "Eleanor," he began, his voice barely audible, but the way he said my name sent a shiver down my spine. I knew I had to seize the moment. "Daniel," I began, my voice trembling slightly. "I've been feeling quite lonely lately. It's difficult being here without Charles." I paused, gauging his reaction. "I know we haven't really connected the way we could." "I understand," he replied, his voice low and empathetic. It's been strange with him constantly preoccupied with work. Emboldened by his response, I took a deep breath. What if we spent some time together? Just the two of us? To my surprise, a smile spread across his face. "I'd like that, Eleanor." As if drawn by an invisible force, I stepped closer, the space between us shrinking until we were mere inches apart. I could feel the warmth radiating from his body, the undeniable chemistry between us crackling in the air. "Daniel," I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. "I want to be honest. I've been thinking about you. More than I should." "Me too," he admitted, stepping closer. His eyes filled with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. In that moment, all my fears and reservations evaporated. I leaned in, capturing his lips with mine. The kiss was tentative at first, a gentle exploration, but it quickly deepened, igniting a fire within me that I hadn't felt in years. His hands found their way to my waist, pulling me closer as we melted into each other. I broke the kiss, breathless and exhilarated. "This is so wrong," I murmured, my heart pounding in my chest. "Maybe," he replied, his voice husky with desire. "But it feels so right." Before I could overthink the consequences, I pulled him back into another kiss, my fingers tangling in his hair. The kiss deepened, our bodies pressing together, his hands exploring my back as I molded myself against him. I could feel the heat radiating from him, each touch sending shivers down my spine. When we finally broke apart, I gazed into his eyes, seeing a reflection of my own excitement and trepidation. "Are we really doing this?" I whispered, breathless. "Yes," he said firmly, his hands gently cupping my face. "I want this, Eleanor. I've wanted you for a long time." His words emboldened me. I took a step back and reached for his hand, leading him towards the bed. The moment felt surreal, a forbidden dream unfolding before my eyes. As we sat on the edge of the bed, I leaned in, our lips meeting again, this time with a newfound urgency. Daniel's hands roamed my body, exploring every curve as I surrendered to his touch. The heat between us intensified, igniting a passion I had long forgotten. My fingers traced along his jawline, and I saw the desire burning in his eyes. "Let's not hold back," I whispered, surprised by my own boldness. With a nod, he leaned in, kissing me deeply. I could feel him pressing against me, his body radiating warmth and eagerness. My hands explored his chest, feeling the firm muscles beneath his shirt. I knew I wanted more, and the realization thrilled me. Slowly, I pushed him back onto the bed, straddling him as I kissed him with renewed urgency. He looked up at me, his eyes wide with surprise and excitement. I could feel his heart racing beneath me, mirroring the frantic rhythm of my own. "I never expected this," he breathed, his hands gripping my hips. "Neither did I replied, my voice low and husky. "But it feels too good to stop now." As we continued kissing, I could feel him responding to my every touch, our bodies moving in sync, a symphony of desire. I slid my hands beneath his shirt, exploring his toned abdomen, the warmth of his skin sending shivers down my spine. He let out a soft groan, the sound igniting a fire within me. "God, Eleanor, you're incredible," he whispered, his hands moving to my back, pulling me closer. I reveled in his gaze, the desire in his eyes fueling my confidence. "I want to feel you," I murmured, my voice thick with longing. "Then let's not waste any more time," he said, his hands finding the hem of my robe, pulling it apart. I gasped at the sensation of being exposed, my skin tingling under his heated gaze. "You're beautiful," he murmured, leaning in to kiss my collarbone. His lips trailed down my neck, leaving a path of fire in their wake. I moaned softly, arching my back against him, lost in the pleasure of his touch. "More," I urged, my body craving his touch with a newfound boldness. Daniel sat up, his hands gripping my waist as he flipped us over, pinning me gently against the bed. His eyes sparkled with mischief and desire as he leaned in for another kiss, capturing my lips with renewed fervor. I could feel his weight pressing against me, the moment charged with an electrifying energy. I reached for him, surprised by his size and firmness. It took my breath away, this undeniable evidence of his desire. He groaned softly, his eagerness fueling my own. We lost ourselves in each other, the world outside fading away as we explored the depths of our passion. The room was filled with soft whispers and the sounds of our bodies moving together, each touch, each kiss, more intoxicating than the last. As we intertwined, I felt a sense of liberation I hadn't experienced in years. I wanted to explore every inch of him, to lose myself in the moment, to savor the forbidden pleasure that coursed through my veins. Our bodies moved in perfect harmony, a dance of passion and surrender. We were consumed by the fire we had ignited, a fire that burned away the years of loneliness and frustration. Eventually, as the intensity subsided, we fell into a comfortable embrace, catching our breath. I looked into Daniel's eyes, a wave of joy and excitement washing over me. I had felt a surge of happiness I hadn't experienced in years, but just as I started to relax, the doorbell rang, shattering the blissful atmosphere. "What was that?" I asked, my heart pounding as the reality of our situation crashed over me. "Probably your husband," Daniel said, his eyes wide with panic. "Charles wasn't supposed to be home for hours," I exclaimed, scrambling to adjust my robe. "Quick, we have to hide," Daniel said, glancing towards the door. We jumped up, frantically trying to regain our composure. Just as we managed to look somewhat presentable, I heard Charles's voice echoing from the hallway. "Eleanor, are you home?" He called out, his tone cheerful. Yeah, I'm in the bedroom," I replied, my heart racing as I glanced at Daniel, who looked equally flustered. "Stay quiet," I whispered urgently, and Daniel nodded. Quickly slipping into the closet, just as Charles walked through the door. Charles entered with a smile on his face, his eyes lighting up as he saw me. "I didn't expect you to be home. How was your day?" he asked, stepping closer. "Just the usual," I replied, forcing a smile and trying to act as normal as possible. "How was yours?" "Busy, as always," he replied with a sigh. "But I thought I'd take a break and spend some time with you." I nodded, a mixture of guilt and excitement swirling within me. I could still feel Daniel's presence lingering in the air, the memory of our shared intimacy sending shivers down my spine. I pushed those thoughts aside, trying to focus on Charles, who seemed oblivious to the tension in the room. As the evening progressed, Charles and I settled on the couch, engaging in casual conversation. But my mind kept wandering back to Daniel, to the electric connection we had shared. My heart raced with every forbidden memory, igniting a fire within me that I couldn't extinguish. A few days later, while Charles was out for another late-night meeting, I found myself alone at home, my thoughts consumed by the memory of our encounter. I missed the thrill of being desired, of feeling alive. I decided to take a long, relaxing bath, hoping to soothe my restless mind. I lit some candles and filled the tub with warm water, allowing the steam to envelop me as I sank into the soothing depths. As I soaked, my thoughts drifted back to Daniel, to the way his hands had explored my body, the passion in his kisses. It was intoxicating. A wave of heat flushed through me, and I knew I needed to see him again. Just then, I heard a soft knock at the bathroom door. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly wrapped a towel around myself before opening the door, revealing Daniel standing there, a mischievous grin on his face. "Hey, Eleanor," he said, his eyes sparkling with a playful glint. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything." "Not at all," I replied, my heart quickening at his unexpected arrival. "Come in." As he stepped into the bathroom, I felt a surge of excitement, the forbidden thrill of being near him coursing through my veins. "I was just taking a bath," I said, trying to maintain a casual tone despite the nervous flutter in my stomach. "Looks inviting?" he replied, his gaze lingering on me as I leaned against the doorframe. "Mind if I join you?" I hesitated for a fleeting moment, my heart pounding at the thought of sharing such an intimate space with him. But the desire was too strong to resist. "Sure. Why not?" In an instant, Daniel stepped into the bathroom, closing the door behind him. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation as I watched him slowly shed his clothes, my breath catching in my throat as he revealed his toned physique. Every fiber of my being yearned to reach out and touch him, to explore the heat that radiated from his body. He slipped into the tub beside me, the warm water enveloping us, creating a cocoon of intimacy. We exchanged nervous glances before our lips collided in a passionate kiss. The water splashed around us as I melted into him, his hands finding my waist, pulling me closer as I tangled my fingers in his hair. The kiss deepened, fueled by a hunger we could no longer deny. We lost ourselves in the moment. The warmth of his body pressed against mine, igniting a fire that spread through my core. "You're even more beautiful than I remember," Daniel whispered against my lips, his breath warm on my skin. I smiled, flattered and emboldened. "And you're more irresistible every time I see you." With newfound confidence, I pushed him back against the porcelain tub, straddling him as I pressed my body against his. The water swirled around us, but I was lost in the sensation of his skin against mine. My fingers traced down his chest, relishing the feel of his muscles beneath my touch. "Eleanor," he breathed, his voice thick with longing. "You have no idea how much I've wanted this." "Show me," I replied, my voice husky with desire, as I leaned in for another kiss. this one filled with a fervent passion that consumed us both. The world outside the bathroom faded away as we explored each other, the water mingling with our shared desire. His hands roamed my body, tracing every curve as I surrendered to his touch. The thrill of being so close to him sent shivers down my spine, igniting every nerve ending. I leaned back slightly, allowing him to kiss down my neck, savoring the exquisite sensation of his lips on my skin. "Daniel," I gasped, my body arching towards him, craving more. With a low growl, he cupped my face, his thumbs brushing softly over my cheeks as he pulled me in for another searing kiss. The air between us felt electric, charged with an intensity that neither of us could ignore. As the warmth of the water enveloped us, it seemed to mirror the heat building within. Our breaths mingled, heavy with anticipation. As the space between us dissolved, every touch, every glance, ignited a fire that had been dormant for too long. Daniel's hands traced my shoulders, his touch sending shivers cascading through me. I leaned into him, my heart pounding, my mind a whirlwind of forbidden thoughts. His lips found mine, hesitant at first, as if testing the waters, but quickly deepening with a hunger that matched my own. The kiss consumed me, erasing the barriers I had clung to for so long. The water around us seemed to blur, the world outside fading into insignificance. My hands explored the planes of his chest, the strength beneath my fingertips thrilling me in a way I hadn't felt in years. Each caress, each whispered breath, ignited a passion that neither of us could contain. I pulled back slightly, my eyes locking with his. A boldness I hadn't known I possessed surged within me. "Let's take this further," I whispered, my voice trembling but resolute. Daniel's gaze burned into mine, his voice low and thick with desire. "Are you sure, Eleanor?" "I've never been more certain," I replied, the words laced with a conviction that surprised even me. With that, we surrendered completely, the warm water swirling around us as our bodies entwined. Every kiss, every touch, was an unspoken promise, a dive into the depths of a passion that had been simmering beneath the surface. Time seemed to stretch and bend, the moments blending together in a blur of ecstasy. As the water cooled, reality began to creep back in. We parted slightly, our foreheads resting together, our breaths mingling in the quiet aftermath. I looked into Daniel's eyes and saw the same exhilaration I felt mirrored back at me. A part of me knew we had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. But another part, buried deep, reveled in the thrill of it. Then, the sharp sound of the front door opening shattered the fragile peace we had created. My heart seized as panic shot through me. "Charles is home!" I exclaimed, my voice a frantic whisper. Daniel's eyes widened, the urgency in his expression mirroring my own. "Quick! We have to get out of here." Scrambling out of the tub, we moved with a frantic energy, the intimacy of moments before replaced by sheer adrenaline. Water dripped onto the tiled floor as we dried ourselves hastily, throwing on clothes in a desperate attempt to regain a semblance of normalcy. "Eleanor, I'm back!" Charles's cheerful voice rang through the house, his footsteps echoing closer. Daniel's gaze darted toward the door. "We need to hide," he hissed, his voice urgent. I nodded, my heart pounding as we ducked into the closet, our bodies pressed together in the cramped space. The darkness wrapped around us, but it did little to calm the chaos inside me. Our breaths were shallow, mingling in the still air as we waited. The sound of the bathroom door opening made my stomach clench. Charles's footsteps were deliberate, unhurried, as though he were blissfully unaware of the storm brewing mere feet away. "How was your day, Eleanor?" he asked, his tone casual as he turned on the faucet. I swallowed hard, willing my voice to remain steady. "Just relaxing," I called out, forcing an air of nonchalance. My gaze flickered to Daniel, whose wide eyes betrayed his nervous excitement. Charles finished washing his hands, the sound of the running water filling the tense silence. After a few excruciating moments, he left the bathroom, his footsteps retreating down the hall. Relief swept over me like a wave, my shoulders sagging as I let out a shaky breath. "That was way too close," Daniel whispered, his voice tinged with a mix of exhilaration and fear. I nodded, my own pulse still racing. "I can't believe I began. But my words faltered as the weight of what we'd done settled over me. Before I could say more, Daniel leaned in, his lips brushing mine in a soft, lingering kiss. The tenderness of it made my heart ache, the thrill of the forbidden momentarily overshadowing the reality of our situation. "We can't stop now, Eleanor," he murmured, his voice low and urgent. "This is just the beginning." My breath caught in my throat, his words igniting a dangerous mix of excitement and dread. I was caught between the magnetic pull I felt toward Daniel and the undeniable consequences of our actions. As we stepped cautiously out of the closet, the air between us crackled with unspoken possibilities. The house was quiet once more, but the tension lingered. A tangible reminder of the line we had crossed. The front door clicked shut again, signaling Charles's departure. Relief flooded my veins, but it was quickly replaced by a gnawing sense of uncertainty. Daniel and I stood in the hallway, our faces flushed, our breath still uneven. "This changes everything," I whispered, my voice barely audible. Daniel's gaze met mine, his expression a mixture of determination and vulnerability. "It doesn't have to," he said softly. "We can make this work, Eleanor, whatever it takes." His words hung in the air, heavy with promise and peril. I knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but the thrill of the forbidden had awakened something in me that I couldn't ignore. As we stood there, the boundaries of our lives irreparably altered. I felt a strange sense of exhilaration. The forbidden fruit had been tasted, and there was no turning back.